Is it best to be looking at the cue ball on a shot, or do you need to be aiming for where the cue ball's going to strike the object ball? Most snooker players will have a different approach to this. If you look closely, you'll even see Stephen Hendry's eyes quickly glancing across at the pocket mid-shot here. Even though everybody's slightly different, I can show you a really simple and accurate way to line the balls up that will allow you to play any shot you want. Although unfortunately, there's other things we have to consider. But what can cause you far greater problems isn't what you're looking at, rather what you're not seeing. Because when I go to play this shot, I may not be looking at anything at all. There's a real chance on some shots that your vision may be impaired at a key moment. And this is all to do with the slightly unusual way your eyes work. You can even see this problem for yourself by looking in a mirror. You can see my eyes moving side to side here, but the weird thing is, I can't. But if you were to look in a mirror yourself and glance from side to side, you'll never see your own eyes moving. Your eyes will appear to be completely static, but why is this? Well, as it turns out, it's all down to blurry images. Your brain doesn't like seeing blurry images because they can be unclear, confusing, and disorientating. So to prevent you from feeling dizzy or disorientated when your eyes are moving at speed, you instead see nothing at all. Of course, your eyes still receive light at this time as an image on the back of your retina, but if this image is even a little bit blurry, it won't send the information to your brain. This is called saccadic masking, and it can cause you to lose your vision for up to a couple of tenths of a second. And that's a problem because shots can happen pretty quickly. 0.2 of a second may not be much, but look how quickly I hit this pink from half a table away. It takes only 0.3 of a second, so what would happen on a shot where the balls were closer? That means if I'm staring at the cue ball here and I decide to look up at the black, for the time it takes my eyes to move, I can't see anything at all. So you might think the solution to this problem is to just focus on where you're aiming, but unfortunately it isn't quite as simple as that. The reason this causes a problem with snooker is that things that move catch your eye. And these can be distracting, like my cue moving, causing me to look away and possibly miss the pot. Another problem comes if you're anxious about what's going to happen on the shot and you look away to the pocket a little bit too quickly. Moving around or changing your mind on a shot has always been considered a bad idea, but I don't think anybody's really thought of the possibility that looking around anxiously at the shot could cause you to miss it. And you do need to move your eyes around on the shot because otherwise you wouldn't be able to get it lined up properly. And when you go to play a shot, you need to check you're striking the cue ball in the right place, as well as looking that you're aiming for the correct place on the object ball. And you need to flick your eyes back and forth between the two several times before playing the shot. So here's what I would suggest to sight the ball as best as you can and avoid this problem as much as possible. And I'll explain how that works after we find an air from Yucatan, Mexico, which is there. So before you go to the table to play the shot, you need to work out where the cue ball needs to go in order to pot the object ball. Then you need to draw a straight line between the cue ball and the object ball to find a point to aim on the object ball. This won't work, unfortunately, if you're not striking the cue ball right in the centre, because unfortunately it'll cause it to skew offline. The good news is if you do strike the cue ball in the centre, you can almost forget about it altogether and just think about pushing your cue through the centre of the cue ball to the point you're aiming on the object ball. Between going to the table and playing the shot, you then need to get yourself into the right position, so it looks like you're pushing the cue ball directly towards where you're aiming on the object ball. This will require quite a lot of checking between the cue ball and the object ball to make sure everything's going in the right line. On this first part of the shot, you're just trying to get yourself fixed in position, so it looks like you're pushing the cue ball right through to the point you're aiming on the object ball. Then once you've got yourself fixed in position, you want to give yourself a few seconds just staring at where you're aiming on the object ball before you play the shot, to make sure you're not moving your eyes just before you play it and losing the position. And then you can play the shot. It's crucial in this last part of the shot where you've got everything fixed on line that you don't get distracted by the movement of your cue or look away from where you're aiming to where you think the object ball might be going, like heading towards the pocket. As I explained before, if you look to the pocket too quickly at the wrong moment, you won't see anything. This really can happen, especially if you're feeling anxious about potting the ball. You could be lined up exactly in the right place, but a sudden eye movement at the wrong time can cause you to go temporarily blind at the wrong moment. And this can be especially true of thinner shots, as it's difficult to see exactly where they're going. And these shots tend to be a little bit more of a challenge to line up. If you're playing a shot that's thinner than half ball and you imagine pushing a cue straight through the cue ball, it won't make contact with the object ball. I find it's best on these shots to think about where the edge of the cue ball's going to go and where it needs to be in order to pot the object ball. This is tough to do initially, but it's something you get used to very quickly. Thinner shots like these are some of the harder shots to judge, so you've got to be really confident on where you're going to be striking the object ball in order to get it right, and you must make sure you don't look towards the pocket before you strike the cue ball. It's absolutely vital with any shot to do the right thing at the right time, so before you go to the table you need to have already selected the right place to strike the object ball. Once you get to the table, you definitely need to be looking around between the cue ball and the object ball, because if you're just fixed on the position on the object ball from this point, you're not going to get the shot right. And then on the next part of the shot, you need to give yourself enough time to make sure you're looking at the right part of the object ball and not change your focus from this until after you've struck it. There's another trick that'll help with that as well, but we'll look at that after we find Tim from Oranjemund, Namibia, which is there. Something else that can help you after you've played the shot is to check where your cue is pointing. After you struck the cue ball, you can see how accurately your cue was pointing towards the target. This is especially helpful when you're playing a ball off the spot and you could have seen where the ball would have been. As I play the yellow here, I can see my cues directly on target for where I was aiming. But on this green, I can actually see I caught it a little bit thick, as my cue's pointing very close to the green spot, and on my second attempt you can see it's a little bit wider. This is by no means a perfect way to see what happened on a shot, but it is a good reminder to push your cue through in a straight line. I genuinely believe if you try this it will be helpful in some way. This can help you see what goes right or what goes wrong on a shot and give you important feedback for the next shot, unless you played it with side spin. Which is a little bit harder to line up, but that's okay because these two videos both show you how to line up a shot with side spin and the effects of it. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.